So on this quiz, the first thing that we want to do is we want to see which angle is supplementary to angle 1. Now there's two different answers for it being supplementary to angle 1. Angle 1 makes a straight line with angle 2. So we can say angle 2 is supplementary to angle 1. Or if we look at it a different way, we can say, if we look at it a different way, we can say that angle 1 is supplementary to angle 4. The supplementary means that they add to 180 degrees or a straight angle. Angle 8 is complementary to, so if we're talking about angle 8 complementary means add to 90 degrees. So angle 8 is complementary to angle 9 because they add up to 90 degrees together. Angle 1 is a vertical. So vertical angles are going to be angles that are opposite each other in their intersection. So angle 1 is vertical to angle 3. And then corresponding angles are going to be in the same position of their intersection. So if we use these lines with this transversal, angle 1 would correspond to angle 5 because they're in the same position of that blue intersection. They're both on the top left corner of the intersection, so that's why they're corresponding. Are the corresponding angles congruent? No, they are not congruent, and we know that they're not congruent. If you just look at it, you can see angle 5 is acute and angle 1 is obtuse. But what you can also say is that the lines are not parallel. Because the lines are not parallel, that's how we know that the corresponding angles are not congruent, because there's no arrows on the lines to show that they're parallel. All right, on the second page, let me just make sure I'm recording here. On the second page, we want to write an equation to find x. Well, these two angles form a straight angle together, so they're supplementary and they should add up to 180. So we can say 6x plus 3 plus 9 plus 2x should add up to 180 degrees because they form a straight angle. And now what we want to do is combine our like terms. So 6x and 2x, 6, 7, 8x, 9, 10, 11, 12. 9 plus 3 is 12 equals 180. If we subtract 12 from both sides, then we would get 8x is equal to 168. And then if we divide by 8, 8 goes into 16 twice, and 8 goes into itself once. So x is 21. For this one, these two angles that we are given information about are called corresponding angles because they're in the same position of their intersection. They're both in the top left-hand side. And so corresponding angles should be congruent to each other if the lines are parallel. And it does show us that the lines are parallel here. So then that means that these two angles should equal each other. So 134 should equal to x. Then we can divide by 2 on both sides to find that x is going to be equal to, 2 goes into 13. 6 times 67 would be our answer there. For this one, we have vertical angles. These two angles are opposite each other and their intersection. And so we have 2x plus 1 should equal 61. So vertical angles are always congruent. And so now we can subtract 1 from both sides. And then if we divide by 2, x will equal 30. And then for our extra credit here, these tick marks here are telling you that these angles are congruent. They should be the same measure. I don't know what that is right now, so I'm just going to call these both x. I don't know. What we do know, though, is that, let's use a different color here, vertical angles are congruent to each other. And we can see that this 40 degrees is vertical angle with B, so that means B also has to be 40 degrees. Now, let's see. We know that another angle is 70 degrees. So if I highlight these lines here in green, you can see that 70 degrees would be vertical angles with D. So that means that those are going to be equal to each other. So D is also going to be 70 degrees. Okay, and then let's see. Let's use those vertical angles again. There's a lot going on here, so I'm going to erase some of these lines here so there's not so much going on. Let's use pink. So if I draw in these lines here, you're going to see that X and C are vertical angles, so then those should be equal to each other as well. So you know what? I'm going to get rid of X, and I'm going to say that this is the same thing as C. And then I can also get rid of this X and say that should be C as well, because these are congruent to one another with those blue tick marks. So now what we can say is that all of these angles should add up to 180 because together they form a straight line. So let's write an equation for that. And we can see that A and C are vertical angles. I'm missing one thing, but this can be C as well because they're vertical angles with the C on the right side. So let me show you in brown. So these angles are congruent to each other as well. So that means that that has to be C. So I can say all those angles add up to 180. So I will write an equation for that. So C plus C plus 40 plus 70 should equal 180 degrees. And so now we can go ahead and combine those like terms. So I've got 2C plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 equals 180. Subtract 110 to find that 2C is equal to 70. Then divide by 2, and we'll find that C is 35. So that means A and C are the same value, so that's going to be 35 degrees. And then C, we said, was 35 degrees. And then there we have our extra credit. All right, so I hope now that you've watched this video, I would highly suggest that you go and take that retake. Go ahead and take that retake.